They forced me to train my replacement, and I wish I could tell you I did something petty. I didn't. No sabotage, no training him wrong, no revenge fantasy. I just did exactly what they asked and exactly what my job description required. And when reality hit them, it hit hard. My name is Claire Morgan. I'm 32, and for 4 years, I was the person keeping our operations team from collapsing. I worked at a logistics company that handled high volume accounts, warehousing, routing, returns, vendor compliance, damage claims, the stuff nobody cares about until a shipment is late and somebody starts bleeding money. Our biggest account was a national retailer. If they were happy, executives smiled. If they weren't, everyone panicked. And I was the one who kept them happy. Not because I was lucky, because I built the process. I built the spreadsheet system before we had a system. I built the escalation pathways. I built the scripts customer service used to calm angry store managers down. I built the dashboards leadership showed in meetings like they'd invented stability. I wasn't flashy. I was just the reason things worked. Then the company hired a new VP of operations. His name was Derek Shaw. He showed up with a fresh haircut, a fancy watch, and a favorite phrase he used like punctuation. We need efficiency. At first, I thought he meant better tools, better staffing, better forecasting. No, what he meant was we need to cut people and make it look smart. Within a month, we had a restructure. That's what they called it, restructure, a word that makes layoffs sound like a spreadsheet improvement. Then, one Tuesday morning, my manager called me into a glass conference room and said, Claire, good news. Your role is evolving. Whenever someone says good news at work, brace yourself. She slid a folder across the table. Inside was an org chart. My position had been eliminated, but they were offering me a transition period. I stared at her. Transition to what? She smiled like a flight attendant explaining turbulence. We've hired someone for the new role, a process lead. My stomach dropped. So I'm being replaced. No, no, she said quickly. It's not personal. It's strategic. Strategic. Another word that makes cruelty sound professional. Then she added the part that made my blood go cold. We'll need you to train him. Train him. So they wanted me to hand over the keys to the person taking my seat? I looked at the org chart again. The new role had a higher salary, a better title, and my responsibilities were listed under his name. I felt something tighten in my chest. Not just anger, betrayal. Because it wasn't only that they were replacing me, it was that they were pretending it was growth. So I asked one question. Why wasn't I considered for the process lead role? My manager's eyes flicked down. Then she said the line I'll never forget. Claire, you're amazing, but we need someone with stronger leadership presence. Leadership presence. Corporate for, he looks like what leadership expects. I wanted to argue. I wanted to list the numbers, the account performance, the client emails praising my work. But I didn't, because I saw it clearly. This decision had already been made, and I could either explode or I could get smart. So I said, calmly, okay, how long is the transition period? She looked relieved. 4 weeks. 4 weeks to train my replacement. 4 weeks to transfer everything that kept our biggest client from leaving. 4 weeks to smile while they slowly erased me. That afternoon, the new hire arrived. His name was Ethan Brooks, late 20s, clean blazer, confident handshake. He smiled like we were starting a fun project together. Excited to learn from you, he said, and I believed him. Not that he was dangerous, but that he was naive. Because I wasn't mad at Ethan. Not yet. He didn't design this plan, he just accepted the role. The people above us did this. And what they didn't realize was simple. You can copy a position, you can copy a title, you can copy a workflow on paper, but you can't copy context. You can't copy judgment. You can't copy the thousand invisible decisions that keep a complex operation from collapsing. So I trained him professionally, clearly. I gave him the documentation, the process maps, the checklists, the templates. I walked him through every step. And I did it ethically because I refuse to become the kind of person I hate. But I also made one quiet change. A change that felt small until it wasn't. I trained him on the official process, the approved process, the one written down, the one leadership believed existed. And I stopped doing the invisible extras that had been holding the efficient system together. No more midnight fixes, no more "I'll just handle it." No more taking ownership of mistakes I didn't create. If a shipment needed VP approval, I requested VP approval. If a vendor needed a waiver, I submitted a waiver request. If a store manager demanded a workaround, I said, "That's outside policy." I became exactly what my job description said. And it was shocking how fast the cracks showed. Ethan started getting frustrated because he thought the job was the process and the process was slow. He'd say, "Why can't we just do it this way?" And I'd say, "Because it requires a contract adjustment." He'd say, "Why is approval taking so long?" And I'd say, "Because Derek requires it." He'd say, "But you used to fix these things fast." And I'd look at him and say, calmly, "I'm following policy," which was true. I was following policy. I just wasn't breaking myself to cover the gaps anymore. Week 1, he was confident. Week 2, he was overwhelmed. By week 3, he was staying late, trying to figure out why the same issues kept repeating. Then came the call that changed everything. Our biggest retailer scheduled a performance alignment call. That phrase is polite corporate language for, "We're unhappy and we're about to make it your problem." Usually, I handled these calls. I knew what the client cared about. I knew which metrics were real and which ones were just optics. But Derek wanted Ethan to lead it. "Let's showcase our new process lead," Derek said. Ethan looked proud. My manager looked nervous. I looked quiet. The call started. The client director didn't waste time. "Last month, damages increased, returns are delayed, store complaints are up. What changed?" Ethan smiled. "We've been optimizing internal workflows." The client paused, then asked, sharper, "Why are our high priority shipments missing SLA?" Ethan opened a spreadsheet, started talking about routing, and within 30 seconds, I could tell he didn't know. Not because he wasn't smart, because he didn't have the context. Then the client asked the question that sliced the room in half. "And why did you stop offering same-day exception approvals?" Ethan blinked. He glanced at me for half a second, then said, "We're aligning with policy." The client's tone sharpened. "Claire used to make it happen." There it was, my name, on the call, in front of everyone. Derek leaned forward, voice tight. "Let's keep this focused. We've moved responsibilities." The client cut him off. "No, let's be honest." Then the director said the sentence that made the air go cold. "We built trust with Claire. She knew our business. She solved issues before they escalated." Silence. Ethan's face went stiff. Then the client asked, "Is Claire still our point of contact?" Derek answered too fast. "Claire is transitioning out." The client didn't soften it. "Then we're transitioning out too." My heart didn't jump with joy, it sank. Because I knew what losing that account meant, and I knew what they were about to do next: panic and blame someone. The call ended, and the room went silent like someone had died. Derek turned to Ethan. "What happened?" Ethan looked stunned. "I followed the process," he said. Then Derek's eyes shifted to me, And I saw it. That familiar corporate instinct. Find the person to blame before the blame finds you. He said slowly, Claire, you trained him. I didn't flinch. I didn't raise my voice. I simply said, I trained him on the documented process, the approved one. Derek frowned. What do you mean, documented? I kept my tone calm. I mean, the process requires approvals, waivers, and contract adjustments. I've been submitting those requests. They take time. Derek's jaw tightened. You used to fix this faster. And that's when I said the most dangerous sentence in corporate life. I used to do unpaid work outside my role. Silence. My manager looked like she was about to faint. Ethan's eyes widened. Derek's face hardened. What are you saying? I looked at him. I'm saying the system was never efficient. It was held together by extra labor, after hours, weekends, emergency workarounds, so it wouldn't break. He scoffed. And you're telling us this now? I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just said, you didn't ask. You replaced me. That night, I got an email. Subject line, request to extend transition period. Of course, now they needed me, not as a person, as a patch. So I replied professionally. I said I was open to a short-term consulting agreement, hourly, clear scope, scheduled hours only, and I attached one page, what I would cover, what I would not, approval turnaround times required from leadership, and one line at the bottom, no availability outside scheduled hours, because I wasn't going to destroy myself so Derek could call it efficiency. The next morning, my phone rang. It was Derek. His tone was different now, softer, controlled. Claire, we're in a tough spot. I said, I understand. He said, what would it take to get you to stay? And I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was insulting. He didn't want me to stay when he thought I was replaceable. He wanted me to stay now that the client threatened to walk. So I said, calmly, it would take a role that matches what I actually do, a salary that matches the impact, and authority to enforce the process without being undermined. Silence. Then he said, that's a lot. And I said, losing the client is more. 2 hours later, HR emailed me a revised offer. They didn't call it an apology. They called it a retention package. Bigger salary, new title, direct access for approvals, and a clause confirming I would not be required to be available outside scheduled hours. Ethan was moved to a support role. Not because he was bad, because he never should have been thrown into the deep end to begin with. I accepted, not because I trusted them, because I trusted me. And here's the part that still makes me shake my head. Derek tried to spin it like it was his idea. In a team meeting, he said, this restructure revealed opportunities. We're strengthening leadership and building a sustainable process. Sustainable, sure. Sustainable now that I refuse to bleed for free. The client stayed. Barely. They renewed with conditions, and the company paid the price anyway, in credits, discounts, and reputation damage, because trust doesn't reset just because HR writes a new title. But I learned something I wish I'd learned years earlier. If a company only values you when you're leaving, they never valued you. They valued access to your labor. So let me ask you, if they forced you to train your replacement, would you do it quietly? Or would you finally stop doing the invisible work that makes broken systems look efficient? Drop your verdict in the comments. And if you want more workplace betrayal stories with clean justice, like, subscribe, and share. Because here, one story always leads to another.